Man,
see if we've got an opening. So we normally like have been hanging out for a while. We don't normally just like jump right into podcasting.
Do you want to bring anything up? Want me to bring... I'm having a stroke.
Star Wars, Transformers, Godzilla, animation, whatever else. Rebels, robots, and etc.
Well, it's Saturday night. No, it's not even Saturday
it's
night.
not.
Oh my gosh! Wow, we are way off. It is Saturday at 1:26 p.m., which is why this episode's probably going to be super awkward. It's
Normally I don't talk to people on Saturdays until like 4 o'clock or after.
so this is not Starformers Zillimation night, but it is Rebels and Robots episode 58.
Rebels and Robots Day of Rest.
Well, then we shouldn't be podcasting, probably. I don't know. I don't know. This is kind of restful. I guess depends on how good the episode goes and if I know how to pronounce Soul's name correctly. I'm Cameron.
I'm Rachel.
And this is our bi-weekly chat about Star Wars and
Transformers.
And
whatever else we want.
yeah, animation, Godzilla, that's the etc.
Mostly memes, though.
Yeah, lots of memes.
Truthfully, it's a meme
always
podcast.
Memes. Today, we'll be talking about little animation, Inside Out 2. Didn't originally plan to talk about it. I think if we had both seen it, it'd been kind of mad. We probably wouldn't be talking about it, but we both saw it, and I've got a lot of thoughts. Do you feel like it's going to be a good one to talk about?
I think like after further thinking, I just thought it was fine, but I'm still down to talk for it.
Yeah, I think it's got some compelling conversational
yeah.
points, both from subject matter, but also animation. I think there's good things to talk about. And then we will be doing the next 2 episodes of The Acolyte, episodes 6 and 7.
Episode.
We're not going to be as excited as we were last time. Last episode 5 of The Acolyte was so good. And
Really
this
is probably the...
Yeah, sharp peak in the middle. We'll see how the last episode goes. But yeah, so don't expect as enthusiastic of an episode. But we tend to find something to grab hold to either make fun of or appreciate. But before we get to the week's subject, we always have the news and recent thoughts. Rachel, what have you got this week?
Sorry, I was writing down a comment to make later. But the first thing that I actually saw that was very interesting is, I think I told you about this. Lucasfilm Animation posted a new job listing for a production coordinator. The job summary. Lucasfilm Animation is the creator of the Emmy Award-winning animation series Star Wars Rebels, The Clone Wars, as well as Star Wars Rebels, Star Wars Resistance, and Star Wars The Bad Batch. Debatable on the last 2.
Yeah, I don't think you could put Star Wars Resistance in the same breath as any of those.
All now streaming on Disney Plus is looking for a shot production coordinator. The shot production coordinator will be responsible for assisting the associate production managers to create and maintain the animation and lighting department records and processes from pre-production through post-production on an animated television series. So
this week's episode brought to you by LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, it's not LinkedIn. It's actually a Disney Careers. Jobs.disneycareers.com. Which
did you find this like in like a news article?
I found it on Twitter.
On Twitter.
Someone shared it.
Yeah, okay. My next question was were you skimming these on your free time?
No, I was not. But what this kind of sounds like is something new in development if they're searching for someone.
Yeah, I mean, at the bare minimum, it says that they're not closing down their animation department. That means that they have plans.
Yeah.
Though, I would guess...
Gosh, please something not in the Clone Wars style.
Yeah, like... It would seem as, I mean, they did, so far, they released earlier this year. We didn't really talk about it, but they did release a second season of the Younglings, Jedi Younglings cartoon.
True. I forgot that that's still going on. Personally, we haven't kept up with that one.
Yeah, there's no reason to. But I almost bought you a toy I saw it on sale. I was like, would she like this? I don't know, but I didn't think so. I did, I'll tease it way ahead of time. I did buy your birthday gift this last weekend, though. So it's nothing big. But I saw something and thought of you, so we'll do that on the pod, and late August.
Well, then we'll have to do yours too.
If you find something for me.
Oh, I have.
Oh, okay. Well, cool. Then we'll look forward, listeners, to the birthday episode of the podcast.
I found the things.
Fun. So what my point in saying bringing up the Jedi Younglings was that I think that at the very minimum they will always do like very small kid centric stuff, but I would guess all of the animation stuff is pretty successful. Like
Overall,
3 seasons
it's
of Bad Batch,
4 seasons of Rebels,
2 seasons of Visions, which is not technically Lucasfilm, I don't
7
think.
seasons of Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, one under Disney, but yeah, I mean, I think there continues to be. I mean, I would say under Disney, the animation stuff has a very high average of fan enjoyment.
Yeah.
Regardless of how good or bad anything is, as far as general reception, the animation stuff has a very high average of people appreciating it. So always gonna look forward to the next animation thing. Give us some 2D stuff for sure, because that's
Please.
I like 3D stuff. I like 2D stuff. Give us all different kinds of.
I would also absolutely love something not set in. I would love something set more sequel era.
Absolutely.
I would really love some more
Absolutely.
fleshing out between that, or like post between 6 and 7,
Or like
6 and 7.
later, after, like closer to 7,
That too.
post 6, because
Yeah. Well, I
all
bet-
the post 6 stuff we've seen is like very close to 6 and not towards 7.
Well, I wouldn't also be surprised if they stay away from that, so Filoni can have reign between his 2 movies, because there's
sure.
going to be Mandalorian and Grogu,
Yeah.
and then his 6.5.
Yeah, it's a big
Culmination
galaxy
of-
though, so I think
True.
just every era has its different aesthetics, and I think what I would say right off the top of my head is the sequel era did not do as good of a job of establishing its own aesthetic. I think the First Order I think Force Awakens did the most to do its own thing, and then it kind of felt like they kind of slipped back into trying to do original trilogy stuff. So my point that I've never even thought about this before is it would be cool to like do some stuff to more firmly establish what does the galaxy look like and feel like in that era that's not too original trilogy. Because
Well, they tried to do that in 8, and everyone hated it with Canto Bight.
Sure, fair enough. But like, you can all say all you want about the prequels, but they do feel different than the original trilogy, which I respect. What other news you got?
So this is some Skeleton Crew news. So
Nice.
the Skeleton Crew, a new Skeleton Crew Lego set with the ship and characters has been released. The ship's name is Onyx Cinder.
Okay.
And so the character names are, so I had to find it elsewhere because the picture they posted is like super pixelated. So Jude Law's name, his character name is Jod. And then some of the younger cast, we have Wim, Fern, KS, and Neil. And if you see, these are, so that's. I'm
trying to find it on my laptop. I'm actually having trouble finding this. Maybe I should type in Star Wars.
Probably. So we've got Jod, Wim, Fern, KS, and then Neil, which is NE.
A little like elephant guy.
He looks a little bit like Max Rebo.
Oh, yeah. No, he totally does. Which, if you don't know, Max Rebo is the cute little blue elephant guy from Jabba's Palace. Well, here's what is supposed to be the backside of the Lego set.
Oh yeah, I have that too. So if this is Jude Law with his little band of kiddos, is this more Star Wars dad content?
Probably. Yeah, I guess it would depend on... I doubt children who seem to be this young are all piloting this ship by themselves. They might. Who knows? But yeah, it's most likely not.
I don't know. Anakin Skywalker could.
Someone took the Lego and just renamed, what was his name, Neil?
Yeah.
Max Rebaby.
Oh. Neil is the new Baby Yoda, but for baby Max Rebo.
Oh, it looked like a cool enough ship. It's always fun to be excited for another Star Wars thing, even if it ultimately disappoints you.
Interesting that the newest info we have is the Lego set.
Well, this is always how things go. It's always a leak, because it's not officially been released yet. It's always toys get leaked before any official stuff is released about a thing.
So into the back room of whatever manufacturing plant. They're like, ah, yes, Twitter. Twitter will love this.
The girlies online are gonna love this.
That's every Hasbro figure is pretty much leaked at this point.
Man, you think maybe someone would do something about that? This, I don't know how true this is, but this says it will be 1,325 pieces for $140. Releasing. Oh wait, this is January 1st, 2024. That already happened. I keep thinking it's 2023.
Get with the times, Grandpa.
Okay. Well, I've got some news. It's a new Transformers video game that I had not heard of, but they released a trailer, they being whoever made it. It's called Transformers Galactic Trails. Terrible name, but it looks fun. It is a racing / shooter game where you race in alt mode, and which is a terrible name for the Transformers, like in their vehicle mode.
Stands for alternate mode.
Well, I know what alt like, I feel like alt is so related to, like, I don't know, like alt music or alt scene. It's just, I think they could have a better, it's also not very science fiction-y.
It's always been like that, Cameron.
But I don't like it.
Always has been.
So you race in, for the listeners at home, she pointed her finger gun at my head. I'm
glad you emphasized finger gun instead of just saying gun.
Well, we all know you have them, Rachel.
Hey now.
But you race in vehicle mode, and then there's certain sections of the race map where it seems like you're probably forced to go into bot mode, and you fight each other.
It's like
cool idea.
It's like if you're playing Mario Kart, and then at some point on the track you have to get out and fist fight each other.
Yeah, I mean,
and then get back in and keep driving.
Now, see, I want a situation where
average road rage interaction.
I want a situation in Mario Kart where you're forced out of the cart, but you still have whatever weapon you had, so you get to throw shells at each other. Now, that does remind me, bizarrely, have you ever played the Mario versus Sonic, Mario and Sonic Olympic Games?
I have not, but I know about them.
There was a weird, so all of them were like very much directly taken from, all the different game modes were taken directly from real Olympic events.
Oh, except for
the running.
I was thinking about the Mario Kart ones that they kind of throw in every now and then.
Oh, see, okay, so maybe this is the same one and the same. There was like a running race, but it had like Mario Kart-esque weapons in it. Oh. So it was like Mario Kart, but you're running a track, but you had like red shells and stuff. It was so bizarre. It was like the one weird outlier where it wasn't exactly like the actual Olympic event. Way off topic, but it made me think of that.
I was house sitting for someone we both know, and I was watching some of their children, and I sat with them and watched 45 minutes of a speed run of Mario and Sonic at the Tokyo Olympic Games.
What a truly bizarre thing to say. Truly demented.
What weirdly relatable to the podcast.
I'm trying to see if I can find it. Just a quick. It's called Dream Racing. Oh wait, they're freaking on. This is. I think I did not. I never played the Tokyo one. I played like the 2016 one. I think. In the 2021, they have like hover, like board things. That's. I think
we're gonna get a new one this year. Was there one for? I bet. Oh, there were no 2020 Olympics.
Well. Yeah, I would imagine they made this game. They had to have started it way ahead of time.
So this year,
and they ended up doing it in 2021.
So this year, they're still going to do a swim race in the River Seine in France, but there's going to be actual probably sharks and threats in the water. You have to avoid with your character, such as probably like dysentery.
Great. Let's see if I can get any footage of this. So, yeah, see, you've got like power ups and stuff. It's not very similar to actual Olympic running.
Muted for Nintendo copyright reasons.
Yeah, Oh, geez. Yeah, I got to be careful about that. They are the ones I'm scared of. But the game looks fun. It seems like this is a video game that should have existed for a long time. Like a racing / shooting game for Transformers seems like it's pretty obvious. And maybe it does already exist. But the one, like, I think mystery element for me is it's made by a lesser known video game studio that I've never heard of. So to me, that could mean one of two things. either major companies will hire smaller studios to make their licensed video game so that it can be just garbage that they just try to suck us like a cash cow.
Nintendo hires Game Freak for their Pokemon games.
That makes sense. Or just like the companies that make mobile games, like these are not major studios. They're just designed to churn out a product. Or it could be this smaller studio is actually going to make something interesting. Like because they're not a major studio, they're not as maybe have more focus on this one game. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping it's that one. It very well could be the latter or the former. What other news you got?
So 2026 is hold on. No, sorry. I can't read. So a couple of movie news, and this is all subject to change because movie release dates are nothing if not set in stone until like a month before they're actually supposed to happen. Allegedly, the next Star Wars movie is slated to come out December 2026 on the same slate date as the next Dune movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wild.
In like December 2026. So that'll be interesting. I'm not as huge of a Dune person.
Sure.
I haven't seen the second one. I thought the first one was enjoyable. I do think it's definitely a movie series. It's very integral to sci-fi in general just because, and it's not, it's not a modern thing. It came out in the 70s. I don't know. In peak sci-fi book writing times. But the thing is, I'm so curious if they're going to go through, all 15 Dune movies.
You mean the books?
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're going to make 15 to
Absolutely
20 Dune movies. So that'll be interesting if they can, because December is the typical release for Star Wars and big movies. So it'll be interesting if they go on the same day for box office.
It's not going to happen. There's no way.
I know someone's going to have to back down.
I mean, historically speaking, on the number of release dates we've had for Star Wars movies, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like Lucasfilm is not going to want to share with
Like Dune 3 is going to happen almost certainly because Dune 2 was very successful. Whatever the Star Wars movie is, I just don't see Disney wanting to come. Like, Dune 3 is a significantly more proven thing to be successful in recent history than a new Star Wars movie. So, yeah, I would imagine Disney will chicken out.
Maybe they move back to May of the next year or something. But
then again, I think potentially Warner Brothers will maybe look and see the fact that Dune 2 was so successful being released in March. Maybe they'll move it not to be afraid of Star Wars, but just like, we had a lot of success in the spring.
It'll be really funny if they move it to March 2027 because the next MonsterVerse movie is supposed to come out in March 2027.
Funny. Well, that happened this year, 2024, so let's do it again.
I think it beat it out.
You think
the overall box
office?
office?
Well, that's an interesting
Didn't
question.
It? Or
that's a good question. Let's take a look.
Inside Out was the fastest grossing. I don't know if you've looked at the box office.
It's crazy.
It beat Dune 2 this year.
Yeah, it had a bigger opening weekend, and it's already gone over $1 million, $1 billion worldwide.
17 days, which is insane.
It was, yeah. Inside Out 2 has been a wild success financially on all scales. Like, this would have been considered a success pre-COVID, but post-COVID, it's
good for them because that, people are like, why is it another sequel? Okay, that helps fund other projects.
Absolutely. I mean, and this is a good movie.
Yeah.
Like, I would say the thoughtfulness of this film is good for the culture in general. And if you are going to do a sequel, this is the way to do it for the most part. I'm trying to find the year's totals. Top movies. In America, in both America worldwide, Dune 2 have made more money than Godzilla X Kong.
Really? I thought I saw something that had beat it out.
Maybe opening weekend, but the numbers I'm seeing right now, it's pretty significantly more.
Maybe it caught back up. This is also a while ago when I saw that. But anyways, that would be funny if we get in another 3 years, another Dune and MonsterVerse month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be cool. And funny enough, it goes Dune 2, Godzilla X Kong, Kung Fu Panda 4 is the fourth highest grossing movie. Kung Fu Panda 4 just behind Godzilla X Kong in the American box office. So
nice.
That's a bizarre month for films, I think. Just movies that should probably be really terrible were actually quite good and seemingly did well. This reminds me that not super important to talk about. There's one thing I wanted to talk about. We got a full actual trailer for the Wild Robot. We talked about the trailer a few months ago. It looks a lot more generic DreamWorksy than the first trailer. Still looks visually appealing. I think that first trailer was enough to get me excited that I still want to see it. Though there is one particular voice performance that I'm really concerned about. I'll play it here for you. Oh, and also, you see right before this, you see the robot processes all the animals. So, in case you don't remember, the movie is it's about a robot that gets dumped in the wild and very Iron Giant-esque. Like, doesn't have any memories or anything. It's kind of just learning about life.
What if he's like a super weapon?
Probably is, almost certainly.
He's supposed to nuke all the little forest animals.
Sent to destroy. This robot is processing all the animals. This is why the animals can talk to the robot. The animals don't just talk. It's the robot can understand them.
You need to learn how things work on this island.
It's Pedro Pascal's a fox.
Yeah, I saw about that. I wasn't thrilled about it.
I thought this would be a longer line.
Hello. Here is another to swim.
Swim! Super good. He's a runt. His chances aren't super good.
I will protect him.
It's kind of hard to capture in these small bites. To me, the voice performance combined with the visual of the fox feels very generic celebrity doing a voiceover. It feels very reminiscent
Maybe
to me.
they couldn't get Chris Pratt for it.
Pratt said no. Who do we get? It feels very reminiscent of... Is he a fox in Zootopia?
I don't think he's in Zootopia.
No. Like the main male character. It's a rabbit and it's a...
Oh, yeah. Nick Wilde.
Yeah. Is he a fox?
Yeah.
It feels very much like that. But that kind of works because it's Jason Bateman and Jason Bateman's doing his very typical Jason Bateman-y thing. Whereas this feels... typical Pedro Pascal-y thing, but it doesn't fit this movie.
Probably
in my
recorded his
mind.
voice lines for this while he's in the trailer for Last of Us 2. Like,
no, I was gonna
voice
say
memos.
he did it while he was in the helmet for Mandalorian, but we know he was never in the helmet.
yeah, we can't say that. He wasn't on set.
He did it shooting season 2. In the 5 minutes he was in the trailer,
Yeah.
or in the helmet.
Actually, or no, I was going to say, actually, he would have had a lot of time for this after The Last of Us Season 2.
Because they haven't shot it yet? Or because he's not Mandalorian? I'm not 100. Oh, does he? Oh, shoot. I know exactly. Okay, I get it. Yes. Oh, okay. I don't know a ton about The Last of Us, so it took me a second. Yeah.
Do you want me to just give you a quick brief over so people at home can understand this joke?
Yeah.
Spoilers if you haven't played Last of Us 2. I haven't either. Well, I have watched it, but it kind of shook the gaming community by storm. The character Pedro Pascal plays dies very early in the second game. And the rest of the game, you actually play as Ellie on a course of revenge. So that's the joke. He's probably only going to be in the first or second episode of Last of Us 2 before he gets his head bashed in with a golf club. Legitimately.
So this is not news, but this is a piece of Star Wars lore that I learned. So Jeki, Soul's apprentice in the Acolyte, is a Thelan human hybrid. Oh. And as far as I know, we've never seen a major character who is a hybrid of human and another species.
Maybe that's what that cat lady is. She's like a hybrid.
Yeah. This feels significant to me. Like,
wait, we have seen a hybrid before.
okay, I forgot. There is one other
We've
one
seen
that
a
we've
hybrid.
seen. It's
Jason Syndulla.
Jason Syndulla from Rebels / Ahsoka. So yes, okay, I forgot about that one. This one actually is a character.
Slightly less cursed.
Jason is he's got like a total of 5 minutes between 2 different seasons of shows.
Rebels
but-
season 4 finale jump scare.
Jeki is an actual character and doesn't make me want to tear my eyes out when I see her. So
Live action Jason Syndulla was great. He was a cute little kid.
and yeah, the live action was a lot better than the animated one. So the Thelans, okay, so the most famous Thielen, at least that I know, based off immediate visual, is this one of the dancers from Jabba's palace. Do you recognize this character? She seems very Clone Wars-y.
It has been a while since
I can click
have
on it and see if
seen-
it says specifically what it's from. I just it was the first. That's the official image on the Wikipedia for the species. It's
She's a bounty hunter.
I see.
I was gonna say, I was like, she worked as a part of the syndicate that Boba Fett was in, but I've seen her in a couple episodes, but I couldn't. I don't know. I know, like, I remember 6 things from the Clone Wars and when they happened.
Lats Razzie is her name. So that's just a very minor detail. The character, she's dead. Whatever her name was, Jackie. But still thought it was interesting. Do you have more news?
I do.
Go for it.
I think I got kind of like one last news, and this is just something I have a bunch of news. I'm dumb. The short one is that Star Wars Bounty Hunter will be available on Nintendo Switch, Xbox Series XS, X/S, Xbox One, PS5, PS4, and on Steam August 1st. So I believe that is an older PS2 game or
Yes.
old PC game. Haven't played it, but that's
Star Wars
kinda
Bounty
cool.
Hunter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I played it a bit. I got a PS2 emulator on my laptop and played it, and it was decently fun.
Mm-hmm.
There was I don't think particularly well integrated, but an interesting element nonetheless of random people. Like, the game is not necessarily open world, but a lot of the levels are pretty open in their scale, and individuals on the map would have their own bounty on them, and you could like capture them and collect the bounty. So that had nothing to do with the mission that you were on or the campaign. It was just random people could be have a bounty on them, and you could like scan them and figure out if they had that on. And the mechanics were cool. You know, it had cool jetpack mechanics. You have pretty much had all of Jango's like weapons and stuff. That was pretty fun. It was pretty janky. I think it's actually a relatively early PS2 title, so games are still figuring out how to use the new controller, new graphics, new advanced elements. So if you try to go back and play it now, there are some things that are just super weird because we now have a lot of things that are standardized across games. So I think that's what people are hoping this new release will do, is maybe just like update the controls and the gameplay mechanics to make it
Quality of life improvements.
exactly.
Exactly. I got more news. Got two
Go
more
for it.
things, and I'll be done. So a new book just recently came out in the last week or two. Star Wars: The Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire, which is a historical book exactly about Star Wars: The Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire, authored by Chris Kempshall. However, the book is written from the in-universe perspective of a historian character, Beaumont Kin, who is in Rise of Skywalker. We see him like a couple of times.
Yes,
He's
I think
in
we talked about
sequel
this
trilogy,
previously.
which is kind of cool. That's always fun because it's not like someone sitting down and going, well, here's the history of Star Wars. In 1977, the first movie came out, blah, blah, blah. It's in universe, which is kind of cool. So I'm hoping to get my hands on it at some point. Give it a little bit of a read. It's kind of similar to how Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin is an in-universe historian written. We're not going to talk about House of the Dragon, though, but if you want to ask in a review, and then I can DM you about my thoughts and why I'm watching what seems to be another train wreck of writers, let me know. All right, my last bit of news. So this is something I saw on TikTok, and it's been like a couple years since this happened, but I thought this was super cool. There's a canon character called Ry Lee Howell in Star Wars. He was a Jedi Master and historian of the Jedi Order. Howell collected many early accounts of explorations and codifications of the Force in 2 volumes of 2 books that I don't know how to pronounce, carefully preserving the original text. It's the Ionomica? I don't know. It was part of the sacred Jedi text, which dated to the dawn of the Jedi Order, a combination of codex, correspondence, and scrapbook that held passages written by the original pages. Eventually, they came into possession of Master Skywalker and then Rey later. So one of the books that she has, that she stole before Luke burned down a tree. Riley Howell was first mentioned in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, the Visual Dictionary, a 2019 reference book written by Pablo Hidalgo that accompanied the film, Episode 9. The character is named after Riley Howell, a University of North Carolina at Charlotte student and longtime Star Wars fan who lost his life during the UNC Charlotte shooting on April 30th, 2019, when he bravely stopped the perpetrator. Following Riley's death, Lucasfilm sent a letter to the Howell family informing them that the Lucasfilm Story Group had decided to create a character based off of Riley as a small tribute, but they couldn't share the details until the Visual Dictionary was released. And then, once the book was released, they could see him and he's been canonized in Star Wars. So, I don't know. I just thought that was really kind of sweet.
Yeah, it's very
It's like a 5-year-old story
Yeah.
that I've never heard of. But I don't know. I just thought that was really kind of cool.
It is cool.
Very heartwarming to share.
Yes, I like that. I don't have news. I have 2 things that are kind of just general thoughts. One is I was just thinking about every time there's a new Star Wars, especially under Disney, but even when George Lucas made new Star Wars stuff, the fans just get so mad about lore. And I can't remember. It was something specific from the Acolyte. It was probably how last episode I talked about how I felt that Force healing should be a light side power. And man, I don't have the character names in front of me, which is really, really dangerous. Chimere used it to heal Osha, but like, yeah, I mean, as a Star Wars fan, you are likely to pick out stuff that you think doesn't seem canonical, doesn't seem consistent. But I was trying to think, like, what is the difference between me and all the people online who just get so upset about it? Like, why do I ultimately not care that much? And what I realized is I feel as though anytime someone makes a new Star Wars, they are not really building it within the universe. They are, but they're more drawing inspiration from the original trilogy. What it mostly is people who make a new Star Wars are themselves telling their version of Star Wars from how they've always looked at it. And they're not as concerned. It's not Marvel. So I think this is what Star Wars fans expect, is like the Marvel movie universe, where every movie takes place in the same exact universe as the last film, and they're all in the same series. They're all in the same universe, same continuity. And yes, Star Wars is technically that, but I think it's a lot less of a direct, like the Marvel universe is like a straight line from Iron Man 1 up to the most recent. They just keep going in a straight line. They're always the same. And there's slight alterations, but for the most part, it's one. I would say that the image that came to my mind is that Star Wars is much more of a web, with the original trilogy at the center, and things branch out from there. And they do connect.
Almost like a galaxy?
Yeah, like you have video games, and you have comics, and you have books, and you have the other movies. In the movie, like, you can draw not a straight thread through every single one, but you can normally draw a connection from whatever you are watching back to the original trilogy.
That's what all of Legends is.
Absolutely.
It's people writing their own Star Wars.
And this is what made me realize that, yes, there will be stuff that, for me, is not consistent with other Star Wars. I don't like, but ultimately I think is for the best. Of like, anytime you see a new Star Wars, I think it would help people to view it as the person who is making this is making their interpretation of Star Wars. And I think that makes everything look a little bit better, make more sense. It doesn't mean you have to like it or appreciate it or agree with it, but it does maybe let go of the idea that everything in Star Wars is always exactly the same. Like, and it helped me, like, for example, something that's annoying but is ultimately fine is how live action adaptations of animated characters in Star Wars don't look very much like the animated counterpart. That's because it's much more, now that is a little bit different because they are pulling from, but they are taking that character and translating them to what Star Wars looks like based off live action, which draws not from that cartoon, because Clone Wars looks nothing like original Star Wars. But like in Rebels, even Rebels is directly continuing Clone Wars, but Rebels doesn't look like Clone Wars. It is Rebels is interpreting Star Wars based off of the original trilogy and concept art. Clone Wars is interpreting Star Wars based off original Star Wars and the prequels. When the bounty hunter with the hat and the blue skin,
Cad Bane,
when he shows up in Boba Fett, he's not being interpreted through the lens of Clone Wars or the prequels. He's being interpreted through the lens of original trilogy and The Mandalorian. Acolyte, it's based off the High Republic books, which are like, it's what I'm saying is these are different portions. And I think if you like Star Wars, you're going to have a much better time if you just open your mind a little bit towards this is someone creating a somewhat new thing within the Star Wars world. I don't know if that's really helpful or insightful, but this thought came to my mind, and it helped me to visualize what Star Wars is a lot better.
I think also sometimes people take things way too seriously.
So true. Absolutely.
I love Star Wars. Did you see what I sent you the other night?
I don't remember exactly.
We don't have to talk about it now.
Oh, your least favorite someone on a dating app? Posting about their least favorite movie?
Yeah, I have a prompt on one of my dating profiles that's like, hey, what's your least favorite movie? Because I think it's interesting to hear what people don't like. Like, my typical go-to is like Godzilla versus Kong.
Sure.
You know, I don't love the movie, and it's kind of, everyone's got a movie they love to harp on.
Sure.
And I'm not going to police what you like. However, it's kind of a nice way where I can weed out what people think about Star Wars, which is not one of my ultimate requirements. I would like to make that clear. But someone liked my profile and said, I don't really remember movies I don't like, but episodes 7, 8, and 9 of the sequel trilogy were awful. And I was like, all right,
and blocked.
I was like, that kind of gives me an idea of what I need to know. And I would like to reiterate, you don't have to like the same things as I do for me to like you. We disagree on stuff. Mm-hmm. However, sometimes it helps me weed out whether it's I just didn't like the movie and I really don't like women.
Uh-huh.
Because they're out there.
Yep. Absolutely.
Anyways, moving on from that.
The other thing is I just wanted to kind of, and we talked about this before the podcast, so listeners don't think I'm just like dumping this idea on Rachel. We discussed just wanting to add a somewhat deeper layer to the podcast. So the podcast is now pretty much become, it's whatever Cameron and Rachel are both interested in. Well, a big element to both of our lives is our faith. We've referenced it before briefly, and it's never really been super relevant, but there was a particular topic that came up last week that I felt went a little deeper than our usual conversation, and it made me really want to keep doing that. So this is not anything, it's not a huge shift for the podcast at all. It's just like, we might just, during this section, during recent thoughts, we might have a reflection on something relevant to the podcast that'll bring up a deeper thought connected to philosophy, faith, spirituality, life.
Don't get too
like
excited, Caleb. Not that kind of philosophy.
And also at the end of our reviews of whatever we're reviewing, we might throw in, if it's so relevant, if it comes to our mind, if it brings it about, just deeper thoughts. Just because it's fun. It's fun to be silly. It's fun to rag on things and have ongoing jokes and memes. But it's also fun to bring in real life as well and see, like, because I'll transition into my thought that I really wanted to share, which is last week we were talking a lot about killing and why.
Was this in last episode or when we watched? Was this in the last episode 2 weeks ago or?
Yeah, it was episode 5 of The Acolyte when Soul chooses not to kill Chimere. Mm-hmm. And I kept thinking about this because I didn't think we really got to the heart of it. And we can speculate the character nonetheless, but if the Jedi is a religion. So it really brings up the topic of religion and what religion most religions why normally murder is not good. If you believe in the soul, if you believe in a spiritual element, that if you believe
The inherent value of every life.
yeah, that one of my favorite podcasts I listen to called Haunted Cosmos, they constantly talk about we are more than stuff. You have, and Jedi definitely believe it, that life is much more than just physical objects, much more than materialism. And I just kept thinking about it across so many. It's a constant thing with Superman. It's a big thing. Batman, superhero stuff. There's oftentimes your hero avoids killing. Why? What is the point of this? And I think with especially the Jedi, and I would extrapolate this out to real life, is
Killing bad.
What?
Killing
bad. That's my hot take. Is that if you believe in the soul, then regardless if you're justified or not, taking a life leaves a mark on you. You can't undo that. That if the person deserves it, you will be unreversibly scarred spiritually by it. And that's the Jedi. That is like the source of their life force. And as people, like that, it actually is who you are, is your spirit. Like that is like your body will fade away, but your spirit is eternal. And to destroy another being, a sentient being, is a significant act and should not be done lightly and should not be done. And so I think it's always so annoying as the audience. It's easy for us in our couch to say you should kill that guy, but to put yourself in the shoes of a character that especially cares so much about spirit, it makes a lot of sense.
And we can get into this a little bit. I think we see Soul trying to pay penance.
Sure. Yeah, we will definitely talk about that later. We now, after episode 6 and 7, especially 7 of Acolyte, we have a lot better image of his motivations in the quote unquote modern day, the current timeline of this show. So that was, I think it's something significant to take with us as anytime we watch anything like this stuff, is to remember, for our own sake as people, to not get too callous towards killing.
Are you calling me out for
No, it's both of us. It was
why
both
didn't you
of us.
kill Kymir?
It was both of us. Absolutely both of us. It's so easy. I think everyone at any point does that. They yell out screen, why didn't you kill him? Why the good guy not to kill the bad guy? That's why they're the good guy. And even oftentimes villains are hesitant to kill someone in cold blood. A lot of villains are, at least. Not
Kymir.
Except for, and that's what makes him, that's why I don't trust him. He killed a child. He has marks on his soul. And until you see a sense of, he's maybe a reverence for life, he doesn't have that. Or a sense of I can't think of the word, he's like apologetic for it.
And I think it's important to indicate we're not harping on self-defense.
No, but in a split second action where it's you or them, mostly they put you in that situation. I'm not saying that I'm not making a qualitative statement about killing. What I'm saying is if someone has a choice to make and they choose not to kill, this is why. Because they can sense it. Even if they weren't a Jedi, people can sense that taking a life is a significant act. It's not just, we don't really hesitate to kill bugs because it's not really a life. We should respect all life, but there's a huge difference between a human and animals. And that could go into a whole deeper spiritual element. Maybe that'll come up someday on the podcast of the difference between humans and animals. But yeah, I think it really informs almost every Jedi, and why it's significant when Anakin starts killing people. And you see that is why Anakin becomes who he is, because he goes down that path of killing and it leads to a very dark place. So just wanted to share that thought because I had that thought. I wish I could remember the other examples of other fiction that got me going down that road. I didn't write them down because I always think I'll definitely remember. But the actual
Prime. In
Sure.
the Bayverse films, there's some weird stuff going on internally with him.
So Inside Out 2?
Sure.
So Inside Out 2, sequel to the film Inside Out. If you don't know the basic plot, it's about a teenage girl named Riley. Or at least was she a teenager in the first one? Was she like 11 in the first one?
Yeah, she was pretty young.
Yeah, so a young girl in the first one, teenager in the second one, and you're seeing the emotions as personified as little cartoon characters in her head, and it's all animated.
But they don't control her.
Yeah. She has a consciousness. They are not her, but they have a control board that they can make her do things. Kind of like how, and so the 5 emotions from the original film are joy. I almost started to list the the fruits of the spirit: joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness. No, joy, anger, fear, disgust, and anger are the 5.
Sadness.
Right. I get fear, joy, sadness, anger, disgust, fear. Okay, there they are. And they're all color coded. They're all very distinct little personalities, very inspired by like.
Except for Joy, she's special and she gets a little bit more color to her.
Sure, she has like blue hair. She's yellow but has blue hair because she's the main character. So her design's a little more complex. But they're very much inspired by like visually by like 50s and 60s sort of cartoons. They're very simple shapes. They're mostly like one shape to them. Side note, the voice performances are amazing. Stand-up comedian Lewis Black is the voice of Anger. I got to interview him. He came to... What?
You just doxed us.
Oh.
You just doxed us.
Shoot! Athena, censor that out! Don't let that in! I just said the name of our city. But that is not acceptable. That is worse than any swear word we could say on this
Greatest
podcast.
sin.
Lewis Black was coming to our town to do
a
stand-up.
redacted location.
And I was a student at the time. So as a student journalist, I was able to get a hold of his publicist and interview him over the phone. So I never met him in person, but I did get to interview him over the phone. Awesome guy, super funny, really insightful. I definitely recommend his stand-up comedy. That's just a side note. In the new one, Riley hits puberty and some new emotions are introduced into her head. And also we cut into other people's heads as well and see that they're controlled by the same emotions. We introduce anxiety, envy,
Embarrassment.
Oh, do you know, actually I have this all written down. I don't know why I'm going off.
And ennui.
Ennui, which... Friend of the show, Caleb. It's a French word that means like both boredom and like
apathy.
Apathy, yeah.
I think it's their form of depression without being depression, maybe in a way. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just kind of like the very typical teenager thing of like not showing interest in
maybe
stuff.
I'm getting confused with some of the initial ideas. I think that might have been one of them. Truly the worst emotion. I think I'd cry if I had a French emotion in my head, though.
And there's also embarrassment.
I said embarrassment.
Oh, you did? Okay. So these are the new characters that move into the head. Like, well, so you have like this whole world that's like the consciousness of this character. Different, you know, the islands of personality and that's in the like subconscious and memory. All these different things are represented. But there's like a control center where the emotions operate.
And the thing about the first movie, what it focused on is the parts of Riley that make her up, like different islands, her interests, her family. But the thing that's new and introduced this year, this movie is like essentially a belief tree. Her core values and her beliefs about herself, the world around her, which I actually really kind of liked.
Yeah, it's a cool concept. And we can get a little more into our concept of that. We can talk about it now, or we can talk about it. I feel like how you feel about that kind of ultimately, that and the anxiety element, those are the two core elements of the movie that if you talk about that, you're kind of talking about like, the whole movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is, I think broadly as far as a narrative level, that helps Riley feel like more of her own person rather than a vehicle that these emotions, which is like, there's only so deep you can go with the metaphor. Like eventually the metaphor is going to break down because it's an incredibly simplistic metaphor, but that at least introduces an element, and it makes sense for you hit puberty, you start to become an actual like human. That there's a mechanic in her head that is her, like that is who she is. The emotions shouldn't be controlling. That becomes a plot point. That anxiety ends up manipulating that. And the anxiety is the core element of the movie. Is that anxiety kicks out the original 5 emotions from the control center and ends up just taking total control.
She's like, it's like she voiced it as I protect her from the things she can't see.
Yeah.
And so it's weird because it's like anxiety is not necessarily an antagonist per se.
I mean, she is the antagonist, but she is
in the
not.
film, but
She's not murdered at the end of the movie as a good.
And it's not like ultimately her intent to be an antagonist. But
Exactly. She cares. All the emotions care about their person. Like they are there to help her.
Both of these movies, I think, show the word sensitivity is not what I'm looking for. The influence our emotions have over our actions.
Sure. Yeah.
Which can be a benefit and can be a detriment.
Yeah. And that's a huge point of the first movie, because if you look at the 5 emotions that are in the first one, joy is the only one that we would label as like positive, and the other 4 would be labeled as negative. But the movie doesn't end with like joy murdering the other 4 and there's only joy. The whole point of the movie is that these are part of the human experience. That these are not bad things. It's the way in which you view them. A huge element of this whole series is memories and how they're created, and the emotion that tints each memory. And in the first one, all the memories she created are always one emotion, and then the big revelation at the end of the film is that she starts creating memories with multiple emotions. And that is to say, at the end, that things get more complicated as you get older. I'm sorry, I feel like I cut you off.
I said,
Well, were you going to say something before that about the fact that there are quote unquote negative emotions, but they are still part of her. They're still useful.
No, I don't think so.
And so this movie, the second one, continues to complicate that. Is okay, the 5 original emotions are mostly living in harmony now, and then you bring in anxiety, and that really disrupts everything. And anxiety intends to do good, but ultimately is, because anxiety takes over, causes a lot of damage.
The big ultimate steering plot point that happens is that, so in the first movie, it was Riley moving from Minnesota to California. And her big thing is she's a hockey player, and where in the world are you going to play hockey in California? That's a valid question if you ask me. So it's the emotions of like a 10, 11-year-old dealing with moving, leaving her friends behind. And so the big catalyst in this film is she has just graduated 8th grade, I'm guessing.
Yeah, she's going into high school.
She's going into high school, and she's been on a hockey team. She's got great friends, and they're on a way to a hockey camp. It's almost like when people go to college for like sports or something.
Sure.
And they go to like camps. It's like that, but for high school. And she finds out on the way that her 2 closest friends aren't going to be at the same high school as her. So the whole thing is her wrestling with feeling a little bit of like, it's like a little bit of betrayal from her friends. That's for something that's outside of all their controls. But suddenly dealing with the fact that she's losing her friends and she's going to be alone at the high school. And then she also wants to make a good impression on the coach so she can get on the hockey team.
And get in with the cool girls, the upperclassmen who are already on the team. And so anxiety sees this goal of being cool, being accepted, but goes about it in all the worst ways. And
so basically what we talked about is that at the beginning of the movie, we see this belief tree, and they go and they like feed it memories, like good memories, and the belief comes out of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's things that Riley believes about herself. Like, I am a good person. I am a good friend. Very interested. A lot of I things.
Sure.
Which I thought was an interesting observation. When anxiety kicks out the old emotion, she's like, you don't need, Riley doesn't need you anymore. We'll protect her. We'll take her from here on out. They start adding to the belief tree.
Yeah.
And the big core one is anxiety adds if they don't like me, I will be alone forever.
Yeah. If I win this practice match, they will like me. If I do this, then that. It's these predictive beliefs that start driving her actions rather than her. It's in reverse, and I'm now realizing is previously she would do a thing and that would cause her to believe something, and this is in reverse. It's anxiety implanting an action to achieve a goal. So it's backwards from what it naturally was, which is really fascinating.
to prevent these bad things from happening,
Yeah.
they're actually kind of leading almost to them in a way. And so, really, long story short, because I don't know how long we're going to spend on it, Riley forfeits her current friends to try and hang in with this high school group. And, I don't know how deep we're getting into it.
I would say let's stop just shy of spoilers right now, and recommend the movie or not recommend the movie.
Oh, okay. It
And
should
then
be on
I'll-
streaming now. I don't think it's in theaters anymore.
It probably is. It's making a lot of
It
money.
was only in theaters for a couple more days when we saw it, at least here.
Well, were you looking at like the next? They don't normally have the next weekends posted. Were you looking at the movie theaters like
Yeah,
screening
it was
times?
done like Tuesday.
Well,
when we
that's
saw it.
I think that's probably a result of they don't have that planned out. Because I couldn't find the theater I went to 10 days before. There were no screenings for that day, and then a few days
interesting.
later. So
Huh.
like they don't make those decisions until a few days before
I just
because
thought it was a shorter run.
it's based entirely on how well it's doing.
Okay.
like-
It did well.
Very. So I would be entirely shocked if this is still out of theaters. If this were to go out of theaters, like immediately, it's been out for a month, so it doesn't have a lot longer, but it still has a little bit of time. But yeah, so we'll say we'll recommend it or not, and then we'll go into spoilers. And before spoilers start, I will cut in later a time code to skip forward if you want to skip the spoilers. So recommend, don't recommend.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. It was a good time. Enjoyable. If you liked the first one, you'll probably like this one. Pretty easy to go watch. It's a lot easier when you don't have a kid playing on their phone at loud volume for the last 30 minutes of the film, but you know what? I won't get into
Well, you
that.
shouldn't have brought that kid with you, Rachel.
Yeah, it wasn't me. That's the closest I've been to being a Karen in a movie theater and telling someone to be quiet out loud.
I would have done it 100%.
I was this close until I made direct eye contact with them, and then I think their mom took away their phone and they started crying.
Yikes.
I was like,
So Rachel recommends the movie but doesn't recommend children.
I don't.
I also highly recommend it. We'll get into my criticism of it in a few moments, but it is an excellent film on its own. It is a good sequel. I think it is not as good as the first, which is always a kind of, it feels like a quaint thing to say. I'm trying to build expectation.
I think there's something very special about the first one.
100%. But this is a sequel that could have been a disaster and still is a good companion piece. It adds to the first one without, I don't think, detracts from it, and continues the story, both the literal story, but also like the concepts they're trying to explore. It's great for all ages, I would say. Like, I've talked to multiple people who have seen it, and everyone I've talked to has really loved it. It seems to be really meaningful to people. Anxiety is something that is a big part of your life and you will really relate to it, and maybe will help you to understand some things a little more from a metaphorical perspective, or it helps you understand others if it's not something that's a big part of your
Maybe
life.
it helps you think about something about the rest of the little emotions in your head, absolutely like curb stomping the anxiety emotion if you're getting too anxious.
Okay, and if you want to skip spoilers, skip to
1 hour, 21 minutes, and 11 seconds.
Oh, the funny thing about it is that in the first movie, they kind of play a little into like everyone else having emotions, and they have it for animals as well.
yes.
Athena's biggest controlling emotion is sleepy.
She big sleepy girl. So the movie ultimately builds to an anxiety attack, but it's also somewhat result of Joy's actions. Well, okay.
Ooh, this is what I'm curious, because I don't feel like Joy has learned much between last movie and this movie, other than coexistence.
That's a really good point. That is one of my frustrations with most sequels, is most of the time main characters unlearn the lesson from the previous film. Joy is kind of a non-entity in this movie for me. Well, Joy is an exceptionally well-written character in the first one, and her journey of like, it's kind of weird to have the emotion itself has its own character arc in the first one, but Joy is kind of a stand-in for Riley herself to some degree. Regardless, Joy is an excellent character in the first one, has a really interesting character arc. And in this one, I think she's very much replaced by Anxiety. Anxiety is the character with the character arc. And whilst Joy is still a very likable character, and the way Joy interacts with Anxiety at the end is an incredible moment, I totally agree, is that she unlearns the lesson. And I think somewhat character regression is fine, but yeah, please continue.
They didn't do it with Sadness. I really liked seeing Sadness still keep
Agreed.
up everything she had learned. And I really liked the characterization of the original emotions that we didn't really get a whole lot of last movie at all. They were just kind of there. I think Disgust might be my favorite. I just think she's a hoot.
Disgust is a character that I was the one of the 5 that I was the most skeptical of originally, and I was really turned around and this is a fun character.
Funny.
Agreed.
But stupid dogs.
Though weirdly enough, Disgust and Fear, they replaced both voice actors. I was kind of bummed about that. Yeah, and you can't it's not like super noticeable, but the original 5, just all 5 voice actors are so good in the first film, and it was Bill Hader, who is one of my favorite actors, period, from SNL, a bunch of comedies.
Sonic.
What's his relationship to Sonic?
Is he not in Sonic?
I don't think so.
No, wait. Who am I thinking of?
The voice of Sonic is a totally different guy.
You're right. I'm thinking of something else. I'm thinking of a reference that I know is really funny, but I can't place it right now, so you guys just don't get to know that. If I had emotions in my head, 50% of my brain is an island for memes.
And it was Mindy Kaling, I think is her name, from The Office, was the original anger or disgust. This one, it's an actress I don't really know.
There's a nickel for each actress from The Office.
And Fear is now Tony Hale, who has been in a bunch of stuff, but most relevant to this is he's the voice of Forky from Toy Story 4.
Wow, he's got some... He just has some weird Forky Fear energy.
Yeah, Tony Hale's a very particular voice that's really great. But my point I was going to make a second ago is that Joy, the big thing that she's the big kind of like Chekhov's gun that she introduced at the beginning is that she keeps pushing negative memories to the back of the brain.
Yeah.
And what that does is you just have this big stack of memories just sitting around.
Yeah.
And
it's
then
we don't need that one.
It's pretty much repressed memories is what it is. Joy is repressing memories, like embarrassing stuff that she just doesn't like, stuff that she doesn't want to create core beliefs. So the great metaphor at the end of the film is that the only way for them to get back to the control room is to make all these collapse into the big pool that creates beliefs. So just what causes the anxiety attack at the end is the anxiety's been building up, and then all these repressed memories flood in and just overwhelm Riley.
And I think it's really interesting because it's like everything that, your entire life, you are a product of everything in your life. Mm-hmm. But not everything shapes your core beliefs.
Yeah.
Not everything that happens to you shapes your core beliefs. That might be building to something, or something might happen to you, and you might, acknowledge it and go, so I'm seeing this, but this is what I'm taking from this. Mm-hmm. Sorry if you can hear the dogs again barking on this recording.
So that's all very good. I think I just want to quickly talk about some of my criticisms. I think everything we've talked about so far is really strong. I think the thing that the first one has, though, is so many cool additional elements. The islands of personality are all very fun. Bing Bong himself, the imaginary character, and his death is so good.
Yeah, he's just dead.
Yeah. And there's a little, if you notice, there's a little, I think it's joy or sadness, one of the two. They have a little toy of him,
Bing
which
Bong.
is just heartbreaking. They go through a chamber that is like how Riley abstracts ideas and they get deconstructed. In the first one, that's a great scene. The dream, when they go down to the dream, is like a movie theater. I disagree with you. It's funny how we have different perspectives on this. I think that the 3 secondary emotions from the first film, I like their scenes more in the first one. Because there's just so many more characters in this one. I just feel like they don't get it. Like sadness gets relegated to like hiding at one point, and I think they're all great characters in general, but I feel like they all have individually better moments in the first one than this one. All of this is to say, I think while as both the first and second film both have really strong core stories and narratives, the first one has layers on top of that are also really engaging, whereas this one, anything outside the main thing I found kind of hit or miss. There certainly are fun additional things.
I think the strongest thing that they introduced was that belief tree.
Oh, yeah. And again, anything that the core story of Inside Out 2 is really good. I just felt like it lacked... There's just so much fun additional things. Now, there is some fun additional things in 2. I really like the vault that they go to, where there's like things
Secrets.
that Riley has stowed away. A video game character that she had a crush on that is animated like a early 2000s pixelated,
Low
like
polygon.
not 16... low polygram.
Very Kingdom Hearts.
Exactly. The animation of that character is so amazing just because they really captured, like, if you watch a YouTube video of an old video game cutscene, kind of the artifacting and the pixelization looks great. In addition to that, there's like a 2D animated cartoon character that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
I think he overstayed his welcome very quickly.
you think so? I found him very
Pouchy.
see Pouchy. All right, let's talk about Pouchy.
I did not like watching Anger dig around in Pouchy for 10 seconds.
So Pouchy is a very like Dora the Explorer-esque character of like the map. Or is there any other anthropomorphic objects in Dora other than the map?
The backpack.
The backpack, yes. It's very similar to the backpack. And Pouchy is this pouch that has things that can help the main character. And towards the beginning, they get out of the vault, Pouchy spits out some dynamite that blows up the door. And so towards the end of the movie, they call in Pouchy, and they need a lot of dynamite. So Anger just reaches into Pouchy is literally like a fanny pack, and its mouth is the zipper, and just pushes his hand into. Oh, you can imagine this is a very moment. Like, the movie doesn't have a lot of moments for a movie about teenagers, but this is one of the ultimate moments I've ever seen in a theater. It is just the level of discomfort that I could feel around me. I thought it was hilarious
Because throughout it, Pouchy is struggling the whole time.
he's making horrible sounds.
It's like,
because he's got a fist in his mouth.
oh my God.
I don't know. Like, it reminded me of seeing Lego Batman in the theater, where they're making references that no one else in the theater is getting, and I'm the only one getting them, and I am dying. So I appreciated it.
It was like when we went to Kung Fu Panda 4 and you were the person busting up in the theater.
I just have, sometimes there are things that tickle me in a way that doesn't make anyone else laugh. It just
Cameron
gets me.
just like funny movie.
I do. I like funny movie.
Also, I guess we're not, I don't know, talking about strong things. Holy crap, her friends are good people.
Okay, explain.
Like Riley's friends,
The two friends that she originally had.
had. Holy crap, they are good people, because I went and saw it with with a group of friends, and I was sitting next to one of my best friends, and it was just really, because I guess this is spoilers. One of the penultimate is that they're on opposite teams for this scrimmage. And instead of playing one last game with her friends, she chose to play one last game with this team she's trying to get on. And she is she's hogging the puck the whole time. She's trying to beat the previous record so she can get on the team. Mm-hmm. And overall, actually what it shows is that this gain to be accepted, she's actually thoroughly a jerk, because she's shoving everyone else to try to, but she ends up like, I do not know how how no one got a concussion from this, but she hits one of her best friends at like
Full speed.
And it's full frontal. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't know if it like, she is able to get up, but I don't think she apologizes or anything, because anxiety is still controlling her. Like, it doesn't matter. We still got to do it. Anxiety was almost like, usual casualty. I don't know, like, very not caring. And so she clocks her friend at breakneck speed and she's ignored her friends this whole couple of days and doesn't even apologize or check on her. And this is when Riley gets sent out to the timeout, the timeout
penalty box.
Yeah, penalty box. And it is just wild, because at the end, they kind of make up. Her friends go to check on her when she's having the panic attack, which is very sweet. But whoa. I'm guessing they still remained friends after. They still remained friends afterward, but like,
because she does apologize after
she does.
The anxiety attack ends. She does kind of just go to her friends and be like, I've been a jerk. And I think to some degree, like, if you play hockey, like, accidents happen.
True, accidents happen.
And it's like, if it were like if you were playing a different, less contact sport, you'd be like, what? Like, if you play chess, I don't know. I'm talking about, you just decked the person you're playing chess against. That would be a lot more egregious. But like, things happen in hockey. Yeah. I think that's what makes it a little more easier to apologize for. It's like, you play hockey, people get hurt sometimes. She didn't get a concussion. She didn't like lose any teeth.
No, but it was a pretty violent hit.
I agree. But that's why I think the friend is willing to.
But I think it was just, I was very impressed with I think the friends, because I think it would be easy for a couple of middle schoolers to go, I'm not going to talk to you ever again.
Sure. That does bring up the resolution of the film, which is how the anxiety attack is resolved. The anxiety attack is depicted in a really interesting way. Of the anxiety character is like moving at faster than light speed. Of like she's like created a barrier where she's running really fast around the control center that no one can touch the controls, but anxiety herself is like locked in and can't do anything herself. So, and all these emotions
which is where this interesting, sorry, not to cut you off, but I think this is where it's interesting, where there's that separation between Riley as a human and the emotions in her head. Mm-hmm.
And all the suppressed memories are flooding in. So it's just like overwhelming Riley. And that's all very interesting. A very interesting visual and a metaphorical representation. Mm-hmm. And something that we kind of skipped over that's really important is the core beliefs that are created. It creates like this kind of like flowery thing. And you had this positive one before, and it was telling Riley that she's a good friend, she's a good person. Anxiety gets rid of that and builds a new one that ultimately like creates a belief in this. Anxiety did not want this, is surprised by this, creates a belief that I'm not enough. And that's what's informing all of
Shocked
this.
Pikachu face.
Yeah. And how the emotions all resolve this as they all like wrap around this new little belief core that's been created. And like, it's kind of like a group hug sort of situation. And I think there's an interesting concept being handled here of like, they're trying to emulate like self-love. Like the antithesis of the anxiety is like loving yourself. Like the emotions are trying to love, like using all of your emotions to love yourself. But to me, that's not how people should or most likely deal with an anxiety attack or extreme anxiety. Is like, you need outside help. Like you yourself will eventually have to deal with it yourself internally, but seeking outside help is a really good thing. Mm-hmm. And that's not really depicted here.
You know, that brought me to one of my questions. How do like anti-anxiety meds work in this world? Is it like are they like a couple of cops and they put anxiety in like a straitjacket or something? They just cart her off and lock her in a little closet.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to figure out. Like how, there's another emotion we didn't talk about. Nostalgia.
Oh, in there very briefly.
Very briefly, nostalgia.
An old woman.
In there twice. Yeah, she is an old woman emotion, and you know she's the nostalgia moment where the joke is that she comes out and is like, "Remember when we all first met?" And it was like, that was 5 minutes ago, nostalgia. And someone puts her away. It might have been anxiety, and they were like, "You can come back after college graduation and best friend's wedding or something like that." And that was really funny. I got a kick out of that.
Yeah, I guess like, I know the movie's very metaphorical and it's trying to achieve something, but I do feel like in a movie that is this intelligent, especially the first one has such a nuanced conclusion at the end, I did feel the way it was resolved was a little neat and didn't really get at the challenges of how one actually deals with anxiety. I do love that anxiety doesn't disappear at the end. Anxiety is still around.
Well, everyone has some form of anxiety. Like,
absolutely.
This isn't like a generalized anxiety disorder diagnosis. This is just everyone's got a little bit of anxiety about something.
But I just think like the anxiety attack very specifically is resolved by her calming herself down.
I think she, if I remember correctly, she also kind of sees her friends too, right? Because they come to check on her.
That's possible. I may be misremembering.
Because the friend she knocked over, sees her like hyperventilating in the box and makes the decision to go over there.
In my memory, she was pretty over it, and that was when she did finally talk to her friend. She was kind of like had come to her epiphany and apologized. But I could be misremembering 100%.
But so, and not to go back on Joy seems to have a character regression, but here's the thing, because as we talked about in the first movie, the goal is that Joy did not want any of Riley's memories like really tainted with sadness. That was the big conflict, is that a sad memory was created, and they didn't know what to do with that. They'd never really had, or I could be misremembering, but that was the thing. Joy was like, sadness, I want you to stop touching everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so then at the end, it's like, it's okay to have memories that are both sad and happy, you know, having these like mixed memories. It's okay. But then we go into this movie and Joy is right back to saying, we can't have bad memories and throwing things away.
Yep. I agree. Yeah. It's not the best continuum. And that's why I do think this one is not as good as the first, but still has some really good ideas. One other thing that I liked as far as like additional elements was they figure out that anxiety is using the imagination center to create these imaginary scenarios, and it's depicted like a room of cartoonists or animators, which is very, very funny to me that this animated movie, the animators who made this movie pretty much chose to insert themselves into this portion, and they are like, specifically they work for Disney/Pixar, and the room is just a bunch of very unhappy animators working in cubicles. I just found that
with someone breathing down their neck on trying to get as many things as possible done before the morning.
I just found this very, very funny. Also, I'm now remembering, I haven't thought about this since I was in the movie. Anxiety is talking to them. She's a really big screen, like a video screen. And someone, I think it's one of the animators, one of the imagination animators, ends up throwing something and breaking the screen. It's a visual reference to a very famous Apple Computers commercial from the 80s. Bizarrely, like for older people, it's a very common reference, but for kids, it is an incredibly specific niche reference. I appreciated it, but again, one of the not as the pouchy stuff, but still very like that's an interesting choice. Outside of that, yeah. So I'm mixed on the resolution. I like the core elements. I like some of the additional elements, not as strong as the first, but still overall really enjoyed it. And we didn't really talk about like the new characters are fun. Envy's kind of a nothing character. Like she's cute. Envy is like a toddler who just wants everything. Just kind of there. Embarrassment is almost entirely visual. It's a really big guy with a hoodie that barely talks. They started to build up that he would have a friendship/romance with Sadness, which I was really enjoying, and then just did not really pay off much. Like it was pretty prevalent for a while, and then they didn't really build it up at all anymore. I thought that character dynamic was fun. And Ennui, I find that character hilarious. Like characters that are just kind of listless and don't care. Very French. The character, we didn't talk about this. The character is straight up French. Very funny.
My friend's husband, we both talked afterward and we were like, looking at Ennui made our necks hurt. Because of the way
like how a teenager like sits on a chair and like has the head back.
We were both like, my neck hurts watching this.
Fun character. So I enjoyed the new additions. It is probably too many characters, but I enjoyed it regardless. What is that?
That's her.
Athena's making like croaking like.
That's her purr.
I've heard her purr before. That sounded like a straight up cricket.
That's what she sounds like.
Crazy.
Wait, hold on.
I can boost my mic here so we can get it.
She's making biscuits.
Joey is controlling her brain right now.
ASMR. No, that's sleepy. That's still.
That is one of the thing that the second one does not have that the first one has is
Cat.
that is all like there is some scenes in the second one showing other people's heads, but it's way more prevalent in the first film. And that sequence where they at the ending during the end credits where they just show everyone else's emotions, it's the best. It's so clever and so funny.
You know, I was kind of surprised. Like we see it with the mom. Like when Riley. Okay, well, actually, one of my favorite things about the film is I think it's really hysterical that when the puberty button shows up, it's angry, red, and flashing, just like a pimple.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
That was my first thought. I was like, that looks like a pimple. But so because Riley wakes up and immediately starts like freaking out on her mom, and her mom was like, it shoots into her head, and her emotions are like, oh, it's happening. But that was really kind of it. I it was so prevalent in the first film. I half expected to see it out of, we get to see some of her friends.
Yeah,
I do
it
think
does show a little bit.
My favorite bit is the two warring disgusts between Riley and her friend.
Yeah.
I thought that was good.
That was clever.
But it was so prevalent in the first film that I was actually expecting more of it in the other film, like with some of the hockey players.
Absolutely.
My best friend really leaned over to me and she was like, "That lead hockey senior is really mature for a high school senior."
Sure. Yeah. So good. Go see it. Tons of fun. Very beautiful. I mean, we haven't talked about animation much, but we can talk. I would like to talk about it a little bit. Lighting is really excellent in the movie. I think the scenes where there's like real lighting in the real world, they looked really good. I think they went a little overboard. So in the first film, I think they did a really good job of making the inside world have a very particular feel to it, and the emotions themselves, they don't really have. They're not solid. Like their skin is like particles. I think they went a little too far with that in this one.
Little too particle.
Like it's too high definition. They do a lot of close-ups on them, and it makes them feel less like they're dusty and more like they have like things crawling on them.
Oh,
that was so I think that this is an issue with modern animation is they have simple character design but very detailed textures, and that works against the character design because they're supposed to be really simple and putting too much texture on them did not look good. So not a huge fan of that. But we talked about the animation on the like more stylized characters, like the video game character and the cartoon character in her head. Love those. The real world stuff, the humans look like Pixar characters. Pretty typical look, but the texturing and the lighting was really nice.
she's got pores.
Riley,
Right, like skin pores.
yeah, no, yeah,
I also like that they gave her acne.
yeah,
as a
absolutely,
young
yeah.
teen.
Put
Like that's very realistic.
real world textures in the real world stuff, great. Just don't bring that over into the imagination inside head stuff. I think there was one more section of animation that I really enjoyed or didn't. What was it? I had a thought.
I just want to know about the physics on all the discarded memories.
They're like marble balls.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I think that the physics of everything tends to make sense and work. That's a good note. So the Acolyte, episode 6 and episode 7. I need to write down this time code. 1.
I have like no notes for these episodes. I'm gonna be real honest.
All right, the Acolyte episode 6 and 7. I really the only thing I really want to talk about is the end of episode 7. Episode 6 is pretty much just. So last episode, I predicted that it was going to be cutting back and forth between Kymir trying to convince Osha to turn to the dark side and vice versa. Soul trying to convince May. While we do definitely get the Kymir stuff, I found that mostly interesting. He's an interesting guy, Kymir. He's trying to like literally seduce her to the dark side.
He was naked, which there were so. It got out before this show came out that there's an intimacy coordinator on set. And, people are like, what does that mean? Which any actually good set should have that in general. If there's, it doesn't even matter what it's for.
Sure.
But even then Hallmark movies, you're probably going to have one because if they're going to kiss, it's just requirement.
But, it's not much to talk about. It's fairly standard dark side trying to manipulate a light side user stuff. It's very reminiscent of
May's trying to.
Well, before we go about that, I just wanted to say about Kymir trying to convince Osha. It's very reminiscent to me of Dooku talking to Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones. Of just obviously way more similar. Obviously, is Kylo talking to Rey in Episode 8. He's shirtless. He's trying to get a girlfriend.
Kylo Ren shirtless scene walked, so Kymir naked scene could run.
It's just like these dark side users, when they're not fighting, they try to be very sly, very cool, very seductive. We've heard it all before as an audience member. What's disappointing about this episode, and you were about to bring it up, is on the flip side, it's not Soul talking to May. It's May having this weird little misadventure on the ship where she keeps trying to kill Soul. It's like a weird comedy sequence. It's so bizarre. Bad choice in my mind. Do you have a take on this?
Basil, who I I've said it before, and I'll say it again.
Hate to look at
I don't like looking at him because it's like, oh, he's gonna rat her out. He doesn't even do that, or maybe he doesn't. It's off the screen. But then she also has Pip and just like default resets
Yeah.
Pip. So and
Yeah.
I feel like that happened a little too easily.
Agreed.
Like all she had to do was it's like when you it's like when you reset your iPhone.
Yeah.
You soft reset, and yeah, I thought that was weird. And so she has this like this back and forth, like the ship loses power, she's sabotaging it, and Soul is like talking to her, and she keeps asking Soul about what happened that night, and he's like, I'll tell you soon.
Well, did she
And-
sabotage it? Because she's sent to go fix it, and she does go to
I
look
guess
at
she
it.
does go-
And like, there's a sequence where like she walks up to it and like does like oil spill on her face or something. There's like a bit of physical comedy.
Pip does it. Doesn't it? Doesn't
No,
he?
because I think she's already reset Pip by this point. She walks up, and okay, so here we have the little guy. What's his name again?
Basil.
Basil like does this weird like karate.
Yeah.
And then this like goes and like tries to tackle her leg, and it doesn't work. He steps on her toe, runs off. She turns around. Oh, it is Pip. Yeah, and Pip like makes some oil shoot in her eye. This is a tonal disaster in my mind. After the last episode where the show's gotten scary, it's gotten serious, it's action oriented. On the other side of this episode, you have the
That's
conversation.
this super weird tension with
Yeah.
Osha and Chimere. And
Having physical comedy with May is not the way to go. It's a really poor choice.
see, it's so weird how I know they're played by the same person, but Osha is just so much more intriguing than May is,
I totally agree.
which is honestly kind of impressive from an acting standpoint.
Yeah.
But so, and then, you know, they get the ship fixed up, and Soul is trying to get in contact with Coruscant. Because things went bad on that planet. And so he's about to tell May, and actually this whole time we're really like, oh my gosh, he can't tell. We're like, oh my gosh, Soul's dumb.
Yeah.
And so he's about to tell her what happened, and the lights come back on, and he's like, hey, go to the front, you know, get it started. And someone from Coruscant contacts them again, and she's about to introduce herself. And he knocks her out with a stun blast. And we cheered. We went, he's not stupid.
Yeah.
So, and that was interesting. We kind of see a little bit of back and forth where I think Soul does report that they were able to get out. Basically, the information they were able to get from Soul is that things went south really badly. And so we kind of cut back to Coruscant with Vernestra.
Yeah, Green Lady.
Yeah. Who has the lightsaber whip.
That's purple?
Yes. And so they send a team out to that planet, and in very Don Bluth American Tale, Soul is
What a reference. Wow.
Soul is like he is going to go find Osha. I don't think he cares all that much for May, but he cares for her as a person. His goal is to save Osha, because if May is here, then Osha's probably with Chimere. And so he leaves the planet to go try. I don't know where they went to go try and find Chimere with May. And in the next second, the backup from Coruscant show up on the planet. And so they start, exploring, I believe, in that next episode.
Yes.
Oh, no, they don't. Seven's all flashback.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, so
So-
they are investigating. One other thing I wanted to note real fast, another absolute disaster. And it's not a horrible, not absolute disaster like the May stuff, but I think there's a really distracting poor choice is Osha's costume in this. It's subtle, but it's too modern. It looks very much like an outfit any young woman would wear to the gym.
It actually
now.
looks like a Rey-inspired outfit by Her Universe fashion brand.
That's so accurate. Oh
That's
my
what it
gosh.
looks
Yeah,
like.
it looks like a real world outfit that Disney would sell based off Star Wars. Yeah, she's got like a slit on the sleeve. She's got a hood. It's like a crop top, but then it has like another layer under it.
It's like-
very tight pants.
It's like Disney stars. How many layers are they going to put these kids in?
Yeah. Like it's not a bad look. I think it's like visually appealing. It just doesn't fit. Like it looks too much like something we have in the real world for it to be a Star Wars outfit. So that's just like the weirdness of this episode is
Weird clothes, no clothes.
Yeah.
There's no in between.
Now, the interesting element that is included in this section, though, is that Kymir explains his helmet a little bit and explains that it's a like a sensory deprivation thing.
That's the material, yeah.
And Osha ends up trying it on, which is just kind of being a metaphor of her interest and like she's actually intrigued.
And the way it ends auditorily, we just hear her breathing, and when she puts the mask on, it sounds a lot like Darth Vader.
Yes. So
there was one thing I wanted to bring up before we went to episode 7.
Sure.
Because we get to see Vernestra and the other Jedi starting to explore the carnage that was left on that planet I can't remember the name of. Kalnaka is the Wookiee. That's his name, right? Shriok.
Correct.
No,
that's not the name of the
that's
planet.
the language they... No, I'm
Yeah,
stupid.
Kalnaka's the name of the Wookiee Jedi. They have I saw the name of the planet. I'll have it here in just a second.
the planet that they were on, episode 5.
It is Kofar.
Kofar, that's what it is. There's a weird... They're kind of start to get into this conversation that Vernestra actually shoots down pretty quickly. But I actually kind of think this would be a very interesting plot point if it wasn't introduced in episode 6 of an 8 episode season.
Yeah.
One of the other Jedi suggests, basically, he's like, if Sol was the sole survivor, did he do this? And Vernestra immediately goes, that is a grave accusation to make, but it doesn't seem like she's adamant that it wasn't him.
Yeah.
I think that is actually something that's very intriguing to me, because ultimately the question is, we know how ignorant the Jedi are in the prequel series. Like that is the goal of the prequel series, to show how ignorant and blind the Jedi are. So something has to happen, and this would be an easy way, not an easy way, but this would be a way that would work out of, instead of having something that massacred Jedi unknowingly on a planet, if the story came out that they're like, it must have been one of our own, and they destroy and they kill Sol or execute him or put him in jail, then that, can lead to why, the Jedi are still very ignorant, and there are no dark side users. There are no Sith.
Yeah.
Because the last time someone died on the Jedi, it was from one of our own, kind of thing. But so that's kind of where that leaves, kind of where that's left off in episode 6.
Yes. And so episode 7 is a flashback pretty much episode 7 shows, was it episode 4 was the other flashback
3?
episode? Episode 3 or 4. The other flashback episode, it shows pretty much the same story, but from the Jedi's perspective.
Kind of clearing things up.
Exactly. And it pretty much shows that the Jedi were there because they sensed a vergence in the Force, some sort of like anomaly in the Force.
Yeah,
kind
like
of
a Force anomaly of a lot of power, because it looked, apparently they said the planet had no life due to was it a mining accident? No, it was
hyperspace
a
incident.
hyperspace incident. But it seemed that the remaining Force or whatever is like a hotspot, essentially.
Yes.
And life has come from it.
I feel like, I might be wrong because I'm having trouble finding it, but I feel like there was a reference to Vergence around Anakin in episode 1.
Oh, could be.
Whether it was like Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon or Yoda or Mace Windu. I thought there was a reference, but I might be wrong because I'm having trouble finding the exact reference. It seems like they talk a lot about it in Clone Wars. It says appearances. Yeah, no, it is. It says first identified as a Vergence in Phantom Menace. So at some point in Phantom Menace, they do reference this, which further makes it obvious that the parallels happening between this and Anakin's creation.
Yeah. So they're studying kind of like this energy source, and Sol discovers Osha and May when they're out by that tree, and witnesses May use the Force. He goes and reports back to I can't remember her name. She's in the first episode. She's played by Trinity.
I have it. Give me just
Master...
a second. Oh, sorry. Wrong name. That is Endara.
Endara, that's what it is. Master Endara. And Endara doesn't really seem to want to get involved at all.
Yeah.
She's like, that's not what we're here for. But ultimately, they do end up going to the Coven. and asking to train the children. And we get to see what happens to Torben when he's possessed.
Yeah, cool scene. I
And-
will admit, cool scene.
From the outside, it just seems that he's like incapacitated, taken over. But on the inside, we see one of the mothers. I can't remember her name. It's terrible. So many characters. I can't really remember.
Yeah,
their names.
I don't believe like the mother.
The mother, the one they call Mama, the one that's nice, or at least seems nice, is like
Anicia.
Anicia.
Anicia?
She is
Anissa?
like getting all up in his head and being super weird.
Also very literally seductive.
Yeah, like
pretty much.
she was like, "What do you want?"
Okay, this is a good moment to talk about this. Corbin's motivations are very odd.
Torben.
Torben really, really wants to go home to Coruscant, and that's the thing that she's like seducing him with. That's a bizarre thing to
Yeah.
like. That's not. It's just not strong enough of a desire.
I feel like there is something supposed to be underlying on there, and it just didn't.
It's not, but it's
translate.
not like I would say. Not obvious is not a good criticism. I don't sense it at all. I don't think it's conveyed whatsoever. Is he wants to go home, and there's a selfishness there that she's preying on. But I don't know, just the motivation to just leave the planet. Like maybe it was more based in fear, but he was bored. Like he's bored is his main motivation. Is he just doesn't. He's
He's
child.
like, I got sent to this backwater planet to look at dirt. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's very odd to be developing a character that's already dead. Like, not much is accomplished in my mind.
Yeah.
Like, Soul, absolutely. He's a main character. We need more development. But yeah, it feels very weird to kill so many of these characters at the beginning of the show, because then it makes it hard to care about them now in these flashbacks.
And I think the other thing I don't quite understand Torben's motivations, but I'll talk about it a little bit. So we see that obviously she possesses him and really kind of screws with him mentally or whatever. I don't know. And they let him go. And so then we see a little bit more information, a little bit more details of when they tested May and Osha. And we see Endara and Soul really at odds, because
Sure. Yeah.
Soul is like, Endara actually later accuses him of influencing Osha to say yes, or to like go along with the training.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up. Of pretty much ultimately, a huge implication of this episode is the only reason that he's allowed to train Osha is because of what happens, and everyone gets killed and they rescue her. If that had not happened, he would not have been allowed to take her.
No, because they sent the test results to Coruscant, and Coruscant said no. Said the Jedi said no, we're not going to send it back, and Soul doesn't like that. And then they're talking more, and so Endara's like, we're going to finish out our studies and we're going to go back. And Torben has a very odd reaction that I think I was able to double it to like boil it down to he so badly wants to get back to Coruscant that he's going to do whatever he can to speed up this study or whatever.
Yeah, very weird.
And it was I don't know. He's very I don't know. It was interesting to say the least. And so he takes off on a speeder to the Coven, like kind of raging about the Virgins and all those things.
Yeah.
And Soul follows him, and Dara and Kaunaka follow up in the ship. And so
Well, I think a somewhat important detail here to add to this is they get the numbers back on their M count.
oh yes, and they're identical.
Which, just call it midichlorian. Like, M count sounds so goofy to me. It sounds like a weird, like you're
Is it really
avoiding saying
Is it really that
midichlorian.
easier to say than midichlorian?
Yeah, I just say midichlorian count. Like, at least sounds a little more Star Warsy.
But yeah, they're identical.
They're
which-
exactly identical, which they say has never happened before, which
Yeah.
proves that they are some sort of like creation in the
concoction.
Force.
And Torben like flips out at this,
Yeah.
and I don't know if he's just traumatized or screwed with. I don't know, but he goes and Soul follows, and so this is where we see a little bit more insight. Osha is preparing to leave the next day. There's a fight between the two mothers on whether she should be allowed to go, and the head of the Coven is like, it should be her choice, whether they like it or not. And the other mother, who's very violent, very, very aggressive, is like, absolutely not. And actually tells May, if you don't want your sister to go, stop her from leaving. So we do see that May intended to burn Osha's diary where she was drawing the Jedi signal. But we do see that it appears that May did not intend to start the fire that spread and trapped her. But the big kind of ultimate encounter is that Sol and Torben get there and they encounter the other mother, not Coraline, but, the other mother who is going to... It's very obvious they're going to fight tooth and nail and they cannot have Osha. And then Mother Inestra, I think her name, she comes out, and this is where we kind of talked a little bit episode. She comes out, looks at Sol, and says, "You should not have come here."
And says, "Someday those noble intentions you have will destroy every Jedi in the galaxy." Yeah. That's a threat. That's literally a threat.
That is a threat. And so,
and also, all of the other witches all have their bows and arrows drawn, so they are under active threat. These two Jedi,
and so
they should not have come. That's right. That's correct.
And so,
still.
One thing I find interesting is May comes out and she's yelling fire, and Sol calls her Osha.
Yeah, see, that's why I'm confused as to whether he thinks that's Osha or he's...
I think it was... My guess is it was Dark and he doesn't know the difference.
My other thought is that he is maybe yelling, thinking something bad. He can sense her feelings, and he...
Maybe.
It's hard to tell. It's really unclear. It doesn't ultimately really matter, but it does kind of color the scene one way or the other.
But, so things get really tense between Torben and the second mother, and they draw their weapons. Mm-hmm. And here's the ultimate moment this is the deciding moment where things go bad.
Yeah.
The head of the coven, Mother Ernestra, I don't know, she there's a detail here that I did not notice that I think makes it very obvious he did think this is Osha. Mm-hmm. And I'll let you keep explaining, but... So what happens is she flings her arms out each towards Torben and her wife partner, I don't know, co-leader. Yeah. And she starts to dissolve into this black, stringy, smoky,
her eyes turn black.
It's akin to what they saw when what happened with Torben. Honestly, a very threatening spectral.
Yes.
Towards them. And she starts manifesting this super, and Sol.
Well, one of the very important detail that I think you've forgotten that I also forgot is that May starts disappearing with her.
Yes.
This is really important.
I forgot about that.
This really colors why Sol does what he does.
And Sol this whole time has stopped Torben from drawing his lightsaber.
Yep.
Sol takes his lightsaber and stabs her.
Yeah.
In front of everyone, and she dies. But we talked about this a lot. He stabs her and holds her, and she looks at Sol and goes, "I was going to let Osha go with you."
Maybe lead with that. Maybe say that
maybe
first.
Don't lead with the "you shouldn't have come here" and everything, and no matter what you do is going to lead to the downfall. They came out very obviously. Mother Ernestra was "I was going to let you take my child," and the other obviously wasn't. Totally not a unified front, guys. But so this is where I had and we've talked about this. We talk a lot about the sanctity of life. We talked about this in Godzilla -1 and the value of human beings. We see that Sol regrets this decision and everything else he's really done. I also I don't know if I would have made a different decision in Sol's place.
Yeah, I mean, I think the show has accomplished what it wanted to, which is everyone's in the wrong. Everyone made a bad decision. They all put themselves in a position to be making bad decisions. Mm-hmm. But these witches, they shouldn't have illegally created life in the first place. They should be better communicators. They're not unified.
No.
There's a lot of infighting there. At least the Jedi debate but the Jedi are normally pretty unified. You don't have this level of disunification within the Jedi. Mm-hmm. The Jedi aren't. It's pretty. If you can talk to a Jedi, you can normally tell that their intentions are good, and that's what she even said. Your good intentions are going to kill every Jedi. It's just the witches are the ones who have everything to lose, mm-hmm. and they are not acting like they have anything to lose.
Yeah, and it's just, yeah, I was really just I don't think I can't chastise Sol for making that decision, because if I saw the same thing, I'd be very scared. And especially when May started to disappear as well, him perceiving that as a threat. They've seen the effect of their magic on Torben. And he's like, well, obviously this can't be good. And so Mother Inestra dies. May is like this. I don't really like to harp on child actors because they're children, but just a lot of the lines, I don't think some of the performances are very strong out of the children. But so she comes in, obviously, like, Mom's dead, and she's really upset, and May runs away. The other mother does a very similar ghosty spectral thing, and so do all the other witches, and they kind of disappear. And they're like, well, what happened? And Dara and Kaunaka have shown up. They possess Kaunaka.
Yes.
And turn...
Which gives me what I was waiting for the whole
fight.
time.
So
the
we
Wookiee
see
fight.
Kaunaka absolutely rocking Sol and Torben.
Well, because they don't want to hurt him.
No,
like this is for me some of the best kind of action is when
they're trying
one side does not want to hurt the other side. Like that is actually interesting action to me because it's not just two people trying to kill each other. It's way more than that.
Yeah. So
it's almost like you're trying to save someone by fighting them, which is an interesting idea.
Yeah, and it's a pretty drawn out battle, and so this fight scene is peppered with a couple of other things. Osha trying to get out of her room, the fire spreading, and the fire starting to impact other parts of this base fortress that they have. And Dara finally shows up. And Dara shows up, and she is able to, like, knock out Kaunaka, and by that, rendering really all kind of the witches unconscious, because it's kind of been peppering back and forth that we see they're meditating, they're chanting to try to keep this control over Kaunaka. And so when they're exorcised from him, they collapse. And this is a scene that we saw a lot in the flashback. At some point there was an explosion, and the way it's always looked to me is the fire spread into either an electric line or a gas line of something, and it caught through their generators and exploded. So what happened is that all of these witches who were now rendered unconscious have no way to remove themselves from this blast, and whether maybe they're still unconscious, I think they were pretty much all dead, or it's implied. And so then we see that scene on the broken bridge where May and Osha reunite, and the bridge starts to fall, and we see it from Sol's point of view, where when the bridges start to fall, he tries to hold both of them with the Force, but ultimately he can only choose one, and so he chooses Osha.
Yep.
And catches her. And then it catches up to what we know, except that when they get back to the ship, Indara is pissed at Sol, which I thought was an interesting choice. I think maybe it came from a way of, you are a Jedi Knight and you should know better than this, but I was really surprised she wasn't holding Torben accountable for any of this when he was the one that kind of raced off to everyone else. So very, very tense in the Jedi, very tense in the ship. And this is where we see them craft the story that their truth they're going to tell the Jedi Council. And actually Sol was willing to go down for it all. He was willing to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. But Indara encourages him not, I don't know, she doesn't like encourage him not to, but she was like, basically like, I don't know. It was weird. They were confused because Sol's like, I should own up. And Indara was like, probably shouldn't do that. But she also was super upset with him. So ultimately, the truth that came about was May started a fire and it killed everyone.
Yeah.
And that's the story they went with.
Yeah.
And in the most dumbed down way, it's not technically wrong. It just leaves out a lot of other very important
The Jedi
info.
did not cause the fire.
No.
It happened before they got there.
Yeah, the Jedi did not come in with the intentions to kill them all.
And I'll talk about that. I would like to talk about, I do think there is a cool element of everyone is creating their own destiny here. A small detail I want to talk about that's somewhat big is from Corbin's Torben's whole narrative.
Cameron tried to say a name correctly.
When we see him older, he's got all this scarring.
Yes.
We don't. I've been watching it very closely here as you've been talking. We don't. It doesn't actually happen. It's not there, and then it's there. So this
I
is
wonder if they cut something.
So this is the last time we see his face. And I don't want to get like too technical here, too picky, but I do think it's interesting that this is a huge choice for this particular character, and they don't execute it well at all. I thought it was when I was not watching so closely, the way it's happened so fast. I felt that it was interesting, and it kind of still is, but it kind of isn't. Now that I've watched closer, so he's fighting Kalnaka. His face is totally fine here. Okay, so he's getting chased down by Kalnaka. Kalnaka knocks him down in the lightsaber fight. Grabs him with the Force, grabs him by the face, slams him. There's still no marks. Kanaka has him on the left side of the face. The scarring is on the... Sorry, other way. Kanaka has him by the right side of his face. The scarring is on the left side. And now the scarring is there. There's nothing...
I wonder if they cut something.
It's possible. The way it's edited together, there is no cause for this scarring to be on his right side.
It kind of looks like
left.
claw marks.
Well, that's the implication of the
Yeah.
way it's shot and put together. The implication is that Kanaka's claws scratched his face, but he never grabbed him on that side. He only grabs... Again, it's a small detail, but it's clear as day. It's not like it cuts away and then comes back. We see the whole sequence of events from before his face is scarred to when it is scarred. There's nothing that happens in those moments to scar him on that side. It's just kind of annoying. Like, the thing that the show has done well is action, and this feels like a really major oversight, in my opinion.
I think the other thing that I keep going back to is when we see Torben in episode 2 and he drinks the poison. So it's like she told him she was like, I don't know, either tell the truth about what happened or kill yourself. And we see his eyes go black again.
Interesting.
Like they did when he was possessed.
Huh.
And that's when he lowers down because he was floating, shuts his eyes, I think opens his eyes and they're normal, and he drinks the poison. So one thing I haven't been able to like wrap my mind about is, did May get into his head? Is that how she was able to talk to him? Because she couldn't contact him from the outside, she had to literally go into his mind.
I'm trying to find this because I don't have a memory of his eyes going black. I'm trying to find it because that would be interesting. I'm not seeing it. I don't think that happens.
I could have sworn it did.
One of his eyes is very glassy as a result of the scarring. But I don't think his eyes... I think we may have talked about this before in that it didn't actually happen.
Yes, they do.
Because he takes the drink... His eyes are only open for a very short amount of time, and I'm not finding any instance of his eyes being black. Because if that happened, that'd be really interesting. But I really don't think that it happens. Because it is really only like a 30-second sequence after he opens his eyes and then he takes the drink. It's very short. Because if that did happen...
I swear it did.
I think... Because we see his eyes go black in the third episode in the flashback. But... it does not happen in episode 2 when he takes the poison. He has his normal eye is very dark in the iris, and his other eye is very weird in its like glassiness from the scarring. But we do not actually. There's nothing that weird actually happens to his eyes.
I'm so annoyed with myself.
It's in episode 2 at the 15-minute mark.
I swear that happened. I'm so annoyed with myself.
That would have been interesting though. I think that would have added a cool layer because what that implies, if that had happened, the implication would have been that there was some leftover whatever from the mother being in his head. That would have been very fascinating.
Well, never mind. We can cut out the last 10 minutes of that.
The other,
If I had a nickel for each time this actor was in a show and he killed himself, I'd have 2 nickels. If you don't know, Torben also played Tommen in not House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones.
the other Torben bit I wanted to talk about is I was trying to really figure out what is the purpose of the mother getting in his head, like narratively. And I think what it is she was trying to figure out a way to peacefully get the Jedi to leave. I think that she thought that this guy really wants to go home. I can get in his head, and if I can convince him to leave,
He'll convince the others.
then he'll
to
convince
leave.
everyone else to
and
leave.
I'm going to do this by incapacitating him and possessing him in front of his
And
friends.
ultimately, he's the one that makes them go to the. I think the intention is that her plan backfired, which continues to add towards everyone screwed up. This is everyone involved's fault.
Yeah.
And May, and especially Osha, are technically the
They're the victims.
the victims. May's a little less of a victim. She technically was just trying to burn the book, but she
Her belief tree is pretty screwed up.
I would say May is not totally. She is a child. I really blame. I think ultimately, if you could remove one person from the situation, everything would be resolved. It would be the other mother.
Yeah.
Coral, the
Yeah.
aggressive Dathomirian, which not to be racist, but Dathomirians historically
She's not a Death
not
Mary.
great. Well,
She's-
culturally,
She's a subset of Death. She's like a cousin.
well, she's from that culture, though, right? She's like probably from Dathomir. Like whatever the whole warmongering culture of the spiky-headed people. It's a problem. It's a huge problem.
You're a problem.
Well, it takes one to know one. So I do kind of enjoy this idea. I don't think it's executed in the best way, but the general concept that everyone they didn't communicate. They everyone kind of selfishly tried to resolve the problems while still trying to achieve their own personal goals. And that's what caused all the, no one's really thinking about the kids because I think something we kind of skipped over is this flashback episode really hammered home that Saul really wanted a Padawan.
Yeah.
Was kind of selfishly fixated on a Padawan. And Indara didn't help. Indara kept teasing him about it. Indara was not a great kind of high-ranking Jedi.
Yeah.
She was kind of mean to him about it. So it's a weird choice for a Star Wars story because I think Star Wars is ultimately about most of the forces in the universe are good or bad, and it's about the people caught in the middle. And this is about just everyone is messed up, and that I don't think is terrible, but you have to really have a strong narrative sense to
Well,
accomplish that, and this is not the best
That
way
was
to do
one
it,
thing
in my
I wanted
mind.
to say. The thing you can tell about, so it was kind of confirmed that it's still a little up in the air, but Leslie Headland did say, yeah, season 2 is in the works.
Yeah.
Whether that's actually going to get greenlit or not, who knows? But here's the problem that we talked about. We've talked a lot about this, the narrative pacing of this show is very odd. The choices that are made have been very odd from a narrative standpoint. And I think we talked about this a little when we watched it. This feels like a show that was written already expecting to have a season 2.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to like repeat the whole lot, but that's what it seems like a lot of shows lately have been written as.
Absolutely.
Under the assumption that we're already going to get a season 2. So they are built, we kind of see this with Ahsoka, unfortunately.
Yep.
Written with the intention of that, we'll kind of get to like the real meat of the story in season 2 instead of focusing on a full narrative show. I'm going to use Andor as an example because it's perfect. Andor, whether or not Andor there's going to be a season 2. Even if Andor was not getting a season 2, we are not lacking anything in this story outside of maybe wondering, it'd be cool to see what happens to Andor between Andor and Rogue One. That show,
I think someone's vacuuming
Maybe.
upstairs.
that season from
We're trying to badmouth Star Wars down here. Can you keep it down?
except Andor, not you, never you, Andor. Like from beginning to end, that whole season is a story that is told and wrapped up.
Yep.
If a season 2, when season 2 comes out, it's going to be an extension of that. It's not we're going to lay the groundwork it's almost like it's a 0.5 season to lay the groundwork of a
Sure.
real season.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the frustrating thing with I think that's a streaming thing.
Absolutely.
Like, seasons are not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Write the story so it's concise and can get wrapped up in your 8 episodes, because actually that's going to be better fodder for a season 2 than saying like, oh, we'll just handle this in season 2.
Yeah. I agree. I totally agree. It's easy to say these things from the perspective of an audience member who doesn't have to write anything, but I think
we can say whatever we want.
I think that it's a fairly it's a very understandable desire as audience members to expect that a thing that you watch tells a story rather than part of a story. I think primarily because we know it'll be a long time before we get another season. Like, it's going to be a minimum of 2 years before we get the second season. So things get really stretched out, and there's even not a guarantee of a second season, and then there's not a guarantee of a third season. Yeah, by all means, plant seeds for further narrative, but give us something to feel satisfied about at the end of the first. Hell, give us Kymir earlier, true Kymir, so that we can just spend some time with him, because he's great.
I think that's the thing. I also realized I have no memes for this episode. I got 6 or something.
I got 10, I think. So that's fine.
So that's one of the things. It's the things that were stretched out did not need to be stretched out, and the things that we needed more time with,
Agreed.
we have not gotten enough time with. Honestly, if episode 5 had been episode 4 and all this information if we'd had episodes that were longer than 34 minutes,
Yep.
and we could have condensed a lot of this information down, and then we could have built more on the obvious dichotomy between light side and bad side, between May and Osha switching places. That would be one thing, but it's we're probably not going to get that till season 2. So
Agreed. It's unfortunate. So, but we've got one more episode. Who knows? A lot can happen in one episode. We'll see. I hope it's good. Real fast side note, I think it'd be there's not a lot to say, but we should note it. It's kind of historic. This episode did end with a song with lyrics. It's not very good.
it's poppy kind
but
of
it is
song.
notable. It could open the door for some interesting things. I think the only reason you should have quote unquote pop songs, vocal songs, is they should be diegetic. They should come from in the universe. That could be cool.
There's an album from either Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor that is all diegetic music in the universe.
Shout out to Yebnub.
No, that's actually not in it, but you have
well, is for me the most famous
the original
diegetic song.
But yeah, it's an album that I think you can also hear in the game.
I see.
Especially in Fallen Order, Cal Kestis listens to music while he works. It's really cute. But so it's all diegetic, which works, but it works because it's also one of the songs is by a band in real life. They're Mongolian throat singers.
Oh, very nice.
So it sounds like Star Wars. It doesn't sound like a pop song from the United States.
Cool. Okay. We'll be back. Okay. I guess we'll need to decide whether we're recording next week or not.
We gotta figure out what we're gonna talk about.
Well, because next week will be the season finale. So we should probably record next week.
Probably.
We'll figure that out afterwards.
Take a break, figure out what we're going to do. And I think we should do some Studio Ghibli things.
That could be fun. Yeah, we definitely need to chat about what we're doing once the show ends.
Maybe put it on our logo. We can't just skip it on one.
Oh, yeah, new logo.
Yeah, new logo.
We finally did
FYI.
it. It's fun. It's really good. Good job, Rachel.
Thank you. It only took 6 months of prompting for me to do it.
Meme minute, but it's
Actually,
longer than a minute.
10. I just can't count.
Me minute was longer than a minute, but is it longer than the time it takes us to finally get to me minute? Hopefully not. Do you have any videos?
No.
I have one video.
Athena forgot her memes today.
It's this meme. It's like a billboard. It's not a billboard. It's like a bus stop ad that keeps a running total of America's national debt. And what this guy says is very funny.
Really confusing because this is like the national debt, right? Who the fuck they owe $34 trillion to? Decepticons.
That was
Really confused.
one of my. That's actually an old meme.
Oh, really? I've never seen it
I remember
before.
seeing that first like exact phrase on Twitter like 10 years ago.
Oh,
There's
funny.
a screenshot from Twitter where someone was like, "This is how much debt we're in," and someone retweeted was like, "Who are we in debt to? The Decepticons."
So good. Good joke. I like it a lot. Show me your first meme, friend.
All right, here you go. Very American. Happy 4th of July.
Good. Let the freedom flow through you. And it's an eagle.
Bald
with-
eagle
yeah.
wrapped in a towel,
It's
looking
funny.
very Palpatine.
He does look pretty pissed.
Look at the way she's just sitting there.
May pretends to be OSHA. Soul. You think I wouldn't notice this?
Oh,
It's JonTron.
JonTron.
But it's OSHA's scar.
Ah, a JonTron meme.
He's also he's just like Soul.
I know, I see that.
Uh
Wonder who made them.
guess what you want. You can always double down. I've done it multiple times. You can double down right now if you
I'm
want
not gonna
to.
double down. I like winning.
What's your next meme, friend?
Guy gets hit in the balls. Every man in a 1 mile
I
radius.
didn't know if you would find that funny, so I didn't save it. I'm glad that you brought it in.
I do find that funny.
Yeah. I almost saved that one. You want to describe it?
It is shots from Godzilla X Kong of Godzilla, Kong, Suko, and Scar King all looking absolutely horrified and or screaming.
It's really funny. I like it. This has got an image.
Something male culture.
It's like a little guy walking, and he's got like multiple paths in front of him, and by him it says "bye," and then it goes to an image of Chimere. It says "biceps," and then it's
I almost did this one, but I didn't know if you'd find it funny.
it's OSHA, and it says "sexual." Then it's May, and it's polar, and then it's Jackie bite-sized, and then Yord is itch.
I almost did that one, but I didn't think you'd find it funny.
I think it's very funny.
Saying my life stinks when things go wrong is self-deprecating, defeatist, and fills you with sadness. Saying this isn't the life Godzilla wants for me is motivating, makes you think about Godzilla and reminds you that Godzilla cares about you. And it's paired with a little picture of smiling Godzilla.
So good. So funny. This isn't the life Godzilla wants for me. This one is just a reaction image, so obligatory reaction, purely visual.
Do I have that? I might have that one saved on my phone already.
It's like the back of a computer screen, and it's all 3 villains from the Kung Fu Panda series reacting to what's on the
very
computer
specifically
screen.
that shot of Tai Long looking absolutely gagged is when Po puts the dragon scroll in all the bowls.
That's funny.
And messes up with the stilts because Tai Long is sitting there like, oh my gosh.
It's Tai Long looking just quite
Gagged.
defeated. It's the peacock guy
Shen.
just kind of looking intently, and then
Kai,
what's he, a water buffalo?
Yeah.
From the third one? Like,
he's actually J.K.
being
Simmons.
disgusted. Yeah. All right, what do you got next?
Imagine driving this thing to the liquor store.
It's like the stand-up speeders that the droids have in the prequels. That's really funny. This is a real-life like convention photo of the stars of Ahsoka. It's
Rosario.
the actress who plays Sabine. It's not Rosario Dawson, but it's Sabine. It's the actors who play Sabine.
Natalie. Their names have escaped me.
Yeah. Sabine, Hera, and
Ezra.
Ezra. Thank
Oh my
you.
gosh.
I couldn't think of it.
Blasphemy.
So it's the 3 of them together, and it
Her mom
just
is fine.
says a single mom who works too hard.
Loves her kids. It's funny. Who would win? An unstoppable monster born from nuclear war that tramples cities and breathes lasers. The boys. TM.
I have the same meme. It's one of the very few instances we each have the same meme. I have the exact. It's so funny.
Picture of -1 Godzilla. It's a picture of the main cast from Godzilla -1.
Very specifically, not The Boys, the Amazon show, but The Boys, The Boys from Godzilla -1.
Yikes.
It's a picture of Darth Teethies here, and it says, "Great argument. Unfortunately, headbutts your lightsaber."
Why would you post that? You're the one that followed me, and it's Soul asking that to Chimera.
Oh, that's really
asking,
good.
Why would you you killed a child and you brought her here?
I like that a lot. That's really great. Sorry, I'm writing down time codes for censoring the swears.
He swears.
Athena, yep, that was literally my next one. That's crazy
so
that we
good.
had it at the exact same time
so
too.
Good.
It's the like. I think it's a Chad meme, but it's not like the realistic guy. It's like the drawn one. And he's looking at a horoscope and it says, "Who believes this?" And then it's got a different Jedi or Sith for every month, and it says, "I'm Luke. I always knew."
That's good. Me, the bag of ice before I put it in the cooler.
I like it.
Is that scene of
I like
Chimera
it.
breaking Yor's neck?
It's a good Acolyte. Weirdly memo. Like I feel like we haven't had this many memes about the show that we're covering before. Like a lot of really good memes about the Acolyte. Another purely visual meme.
Ooh, I don't like that.
It's a very blurry image of BB-8 rolling, but they've replaced BB-8's head with a very low resolution image of Rey's head, like grimacing. It's very unsettling, and I love it.
All right, I have another sensory,
Go for
censored,
it.
valid. It's twice, just FYI.
Okay.
F you, people who don't like Jackie. Share this post if you love Jackie. F yourself if you don't like Jackie. It's a compilation of pictures of Jackie.
I love it. That's very, very good. I have to look up this character's name. I forgot already.
Cameron trying to remember one couple.
Look, they only say it like once in the show. It's an image of Master Vernestra with her whip lightsaber, but it's made the image. It's made the Mickey Mouse ears.
That's
The implied
good.
joke is, "I'm Master Vernestra, and you're watching Disney Channel." Jeez.
No words, just image.
So it's The Office. But okay, now I see. So I presume this is a moment from The
Yeah.
Office where Dwight is just flexing
Flexing
at
his
Jim,
bicep.
but Jim is Soul.
and Chimera is Dwight.
I like that. That's fun. This is my last meme.
I also have one last meme.
So it's Obi-Wan and Anakin fighting on Mustafar, and it says what we see, and it's the moment where they're like grabbing each other's lightsaber above their head, and then what Obi-Wan sees. And it's like one of those selfies someone takes. They take it like right above their
selfies.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. It's real.
My dad couldn't find Google Chrome, so I did this. It's
Yeah,
an
I
image
s-
of a desktop of Godzilla. pointing
Yeah, you have
very
all the
specifically.
desktop shortcuts on one side, and then classic Godzilla pointing straight to Chrome. I like those memes. Those are fun. All right, I'm sending you my memes.
I already sent you mine.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so not one immediately jumps out to me. Imagine going to liquor store is really funny. Why would you post that? You're the one that followed me is really good. The bag of ice before I put it in the cooler is really good.
Cameron, did you make the JonTron one?
Is that your official answer?
It is.
I did make the JonTron one.
Nice.
I'm very proud of it. I thought it was really
It's
funny.
good.
I had that format saved.
I almost doubled down so hard, but I was like, I gotta see the rest. It's the first one.
Yeah, that's hard if it's the first one. I had the format saved, and then today I went to make my meme. I was flipping through my saved memes to see which one I should use, and that one popped up, and I was like, it's too perfect not to use it.
Saved memes? What about shaved memes?
Not shaved. Yeah, it's hard to find, actually. That's not a very... I thought that'd be a much more common meme of JonTron. It's not that common.
Notice this.
And in order to have the original image, I had to find the video, and I couldn't remember which video it was. And it took me a lot of
young
hunting.
JonTron.
Or
an older.
Well, it's
older
5
video.
years ago. It's post. This is way off topic, but we both love JonTron, so we're talking about it. It's post. Flex tape.
Oh.
It feels like he hasn't made that many. Like we are now 5 years into the post flex tape
Post-flex
era, where
tape.
he's like, which is like the firmly done with video games era.
Yeah.
Like he has a lot of videos now that are this totally new era. It just was a weird moment because that was right before COVID when he released that.
Oh my gosh.
And so
Because we made all our friends watch it.
yeah, I mean, Flex Tape was a huge moment for the internet, and it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. Like, it feels like a very recent change that he made, but now it's been 5 years, and it definitely was a weird moment trying to find this video and realizing how many videos I had forgotten that he's made since then. Like, he's made enough videos, and it's been long enough that I've forgotten and don't really remember a lot of them. So that was almost nostalgic, almost like, man, I feel old when internet stuff makes me feel old. Okay, so Rachel got hers right. I have to guess which one you made. There's a lot of good ones in here. I doubt you'd make an Office reference, so it's certainly possible. The Jackie thing feels very you. You were talking about how much you liked Jackie last night. I'm gonna guess it's the Jackie one.
You're wrong.
Wrong. Is it the ice one?
It is.
Dang it! I was
I
so
made the
close.
ice bag one.
They're right next to each other. I was so close to guessing one or the other.
Ice bag one.
That's good. No, I like that a lot. That's really good.
Me, the bag of ice.
Good collection of memes. Okay, I got to update the score. I think this might put you firmly in the lead again.
I was in the lead last time.
Yeah, we were tied for wins. I had one more loss than you. But now
Is this loss?
you deserve minus 10 points just for saying that. This is week 32.
Caleb, did you double down this time?
So I'm back at even with 17-17. You're at 18 and 14. Very nicely done.
Caleb's on what, like minus 32?
I don't think he's ever correctly guessed. Not on record, but either on the pod or through podcasts, through text messages.
Doubles down every time. That's my favorite thing. The day after we record, Caleb, you bring me so much joy when I see your message of your guess, and then the typing immediately afterward. So good.
Yeah, I caught up. I was in the lead for quite a while. No, wait, no, you were in the lead for quite a while, and then we tied on week 28 of the game. Then after the 3 weeks since then, I was in the lead. Or 2 weeks, I was in the lead. You got the lead last week. Now you're back firmly in the lead. So congratulations, you're the meme master.
Meme queen.
Well, that's the end of the episode. This was tons of fun. We'll probably be back next week with a shorter episode. We'll see. I'm not totally sure.
We'll probably have info on what we're actually doing next.
Yes, we will decide between now and when we record next what we're going to do. We'll be back with the Acolyte season finale. Hopefully not the series finale, or maybe it is. I don't know. We'll see.
Acolyte episode.
Acolyte. Very good. Let us know what you think about Inside Out 2. Let us know what you think about the Acolyte. Send us memes. Send us other thoughts. Let us know your thoughts on cold-blooded murder.
I was like,
Send in your best Athena impressions. As always, thank you to Caleb Jacoby for our outro and intro music. Props to Rachel for our updated artwork and also running the Twitter account. You've been starting any fights there recently?
no, I try not to. I limit myself to one social media argument per year, and I already did mine back in March. So no.
Props to Athena for being our editor. She's got a lot of swears to censor out, and also me slipping up on what city we live in.
Yeah, props to Cameron for running our Facebook, and props to Cameron for doxing us today.
Also, remember the Instagram. I've been going back and posting all of our original memes individually on there, so that's a good resource if you want to go and find all of our original memes.
This is Cameron and Rachel signing off, saying, "F you, people who don't like Athena. Share this posted podcast if you love Athena. F yourself if you don't love Athena."
Good night, everyone. Give her a squeeze. Gonna do some more cricket sounds. Rachel is now bumping her head up against the microphone. She does not love that.